Here's a sneak peek of what your Echo can do that we're going to discuss in this very episode. Hello.
Greetings. I trust you are in need of my assistance. Pray do tell me what conundrum has brought you to seek the counsel of Sherlock Holmes.
Hello. Welcome to the podcast. As you could tell from our prelude this week, we're going to be looking into some future gazing, what your Echo can do here in the future, some announcements and different things that are coming out through different news outlets about the future of our A-Lady assistants and voice assistants in general. Where are they going? What is possible? We're going to be kind of delving into our little DeLorean, traveling into the future, as it were, and seeing what is possible. Anywho, we'd like to welcome any new listeners to the podcast. Welcome to the podcast. My name is David Ward. I'm an assistive technology instructor with the New Vision program at Goodwill, based here in Southwest Virginia in the Blue Ridge Mountains in the city of Roanoke. So it's good to have you all here with us this week. And we're about to close out 5 seasons of the podcast, well over 100 and I want to say we're around 130, but I think that's probably wrong. Maybe 110,000 listens to the podcast. And so we really appreciate your listenership. I think it's 100, maybe 105,000. I don't know. I got to go look it up. But we're closing out our 5th season, about to start our 6th season of the podcast. So it's really good to have your listenership and for our returning listeners to be back as well. Anywho, so this week we're going to be delving into the future, and look at what is possible. In past episodes, we've demoed ChatGPT features on the A-Lady. We've talked at the Oracle of Light skill. We've looked at the ChatGPT skill. But really, the A-Lady is getting a little dated. What is possible? What is coming? What has been announced? So we're going to look at some announcements from Axios, CNET, Meta, which is formerly Facebook, and these are going to give us clues into what is possible here in the near future. And we're going to tie that in with some demos of some apps and skills that give us some additional features as well. And maybe even paste in some former episodes where we looked at what was possible through the skills. But what if those skills weren't skills? It just made the A-Lady smarter. That's what we're looking for. So anywho, before we get into that in any sort of great detail, we're going to go to a brief message about our podcast, and then we'll travel into the future and see what is possible. All right, so let's go to that brief message about our podcast, and then we'll be right back. This episode is brought to you by New Vision at Goodwill Industries of the Valleys, and also made possible in part by a grant from the Virginia Board for the Blind and Vision Impaired. New Vision is a program of Goodwill that provides information services and assistive technology training to individuals with visual impairments. Goodwill Industries of the Valleys is a nonprofit organization serving Central, Southwest, and Southside Virginia. Goodwill's mission is to empower individuals, strengthen families, and inspire communities. These shows are provided for educational purposes. This podcast may not be retransmitted, sold, or reproduced without written permission from New Vision. Well, hello again. As we said, we're going to be traveling into the future, and we're going to look at what is possible with the A-Lady here in the near future. So you may have got some clues in past episodes where we talked about ChatGPT, we talked about the Oracle of Light skill, we talked about other features. We talked about Call Annie, an app on the iPhone, where you really get to have this back and forth conversation and really delineate some really amazing information. And in fact, I'll probably put a demo of that in here too as well. So some interesting news has come out at the end of July and the first here of August. Some announcements from Google, some announcements from Amazon, I believe the Financial Times and Axios and even CNET have divulged some information and news about what's coming in September, we do believe. Somewhere around September or the fall of this coming year, 2023. Some very exciting kind of stuff, and I will even paste these links into the show notes if you want to delve down into the nitty gritty of what is going to be happening. But it's terribly, terribly exciting, at least I think. And it gives us a little clue into some of the rollbacks we've seen with the A-Lady, I think, and the Google Assistant. So the Google Assistant is kind of a competing product that Google has made. They make a little like donut-shaped device that's kind of comparable to the Echo Dot called the Google Nest. And they make one with a little screen called the Nest Hub, which is comparable to the Amazon Echo Show. But these things really kind of bring to the fore some really kind of interesting things. Now, first off, the comparable large language model to ChatGPT, which we've heard a lot about, that Microsoft has invested a lot in, and Bing.com has demonstrated some pretty cool stuff. And I believe Call Annie's probably based on pulling some resources from that. Google has a similar property called Bard. And in fact, let's ask the A-Lady about Bard. So if you do have an echo and hearing distance of me, just you might want to make sure its ears are muted, because we're going to go to our A-Lady. Okay, hopefully you've all had a second. Okay. All right. Alexa, what is Bard?
Bard is an AI-powered chat tool developed by Google. It became available to the general public May 10th, 2023.
There you go, as early as May. So that's kind of interesting. And that was kind of to show what was possible compared to what Microsoft released on Bing.com, their chatbot with ChatGPT. Okay, now here's just a little cute thing about why they named it Bard, it seems. Alexa, what's the medieval term Bard mean?
The adjective medieval is usually defined as
not
of,
medieval.
pertaining to, characteristic of, or in the style of the Middle Ages.
Alexa,
For more,
define the noun bard.
As a noun, bard can have a few meanings. 1. Formerly, a person who composed and recited epic or heroic poems, often while playing the harp, lyre, or the like. 2. One of an ancient Celtic order of composers and reciters of poetry. 3. Any poet.
That's enough.
4. William Shakespeare.
Alexa, stop. Okay, so that gives you a little idea of the medieval term that possibly gave rise to calling the Google large language model Bard. Now, historically, Bard, you could go to bard.google.com, and if you have a Gmail or Google account, you could probably go there and test it out. That'll give you a little clue. But according to Axios announcement and reporting, Google has announced that they're going to be rolling the Bard and large language model kind of constructs and smarts, if you will, into the Google Assistant, which is the competing product with the Amazon Echo. So tide rises all ships. If Google has announced they're pushing that forward, well, then Amazon's going to be following right behind. And in fact, I think they've already announced another Axios article, which I will link to in the show notes, mentions that Amazon product developers and people that work in that division with devices have also announced more or less similar constructs from Amazon's large language models, which aren't really publicly available so much so. We'll be getting into the Amazon Echo as well, and Axios documents some of that. So some of it is based on public announcements, some of it is, I guess, on their separate resources, but that as well. Now, interestingly enough, this week as well, Meta, formerly known as Facebook, is talking about their AI as well, their AI and what is going to be possible. And interestingly enough, they talk about some of their AI bots are going to be taking on personas. They're going to configure them to be specific personas. And they gave examples of how they could configure one they've been working on to basically be like an Abraham Lincoln bot. How would Abraham Lincoln handle this situation or answer this problem? And you can talk to Abraham Lincoln here potentially in the future. Or you may have a surfer dude who's another persona, and you can talk to him about traveling, man, and like what beaches to go to and when's the best time of year, right? You can talk to him about stuff. And so that is super, super cool. And in fact, we're going to demonstrate an example of this on an app on an iPhone. Now, why? Because we're going to demonstrate potentially the future of what the A-Lady is going to be doing. And this may give us a little clue into some of those voices going away, like Samuel L. Jackson and stuff we talked about, because they're very likely going to be pushing these kind of concepts here in the fall, hopefully, with AI coming not only to the Google Assistant, but hopefully to the Amazon Echo and the A-Lady. And maybe that will blend in with voices and wake words and personalities and personas. Now, admittedly, Meta's over here. They're their Facebook. They do their own thing. But not to say they haven't had their finger in the voice assistant market. You guys might remember they used to make something called the Portal. It was a horrible blunder and nobody got into it, despite the fact that it was pretty powerful. Facebook has a bad track record with privacy, and so these kind of things with voice and microphones and stuff probably didn't make huge headways. But these ideas of personas and stuff can carry over maybe to the A-Lady, and already kind of has in a way, right? Because we think about the Samuel L. Jackson, that was kind of like an early kind of concept of that. And we think about the Hey Disney skill, right, that we demoed earlier. It kind of creates a persona. And so here in the future, man, that would be super cool. So we're kind of future gazing again. Okay, so just to kind of wrap things up, I'm going to give you a quick demo of the Call Annie, which we did earlier, but now with some different personas. So let's go to that demo now. Okay, so I have my iPhone here, and unfortunately, all my machinations and technology have failed to allow me to record this directly into our studio mixer, so it's not going to sound the most perfect here. I'm going to have to get some specialized equipment or something for this, because doesn't seem to work with Bluetooth or anything. So anyhow, and that might be the nature of the Call Annie app on the iPhone. So it has all these different personas, and we in a previous episode just looked at Call Annie generic, as it were. But some of these personas, they change voices, time frames, the base of knowledge they have access to or have pulled from, and as a result can give you much more tailored and kind of responses and have their own personality. So for example, we're going to look at Sherlock Holmes here as an example. All right, so let me call Sherlock Holmes on the Call Annie app. Hello.
Greetings. I trust you are in need of my assistance. Pray do tell me what conundrum has brought you to seek the counsel of Sherlock Holmes.
I was wondering if you could explain the distinction between inductive and deductive reasoning and give maybe an example.
A question on the intricacies of reasoning, a topic that I find quite fascinating. Inductive and deductive reasoning are indeed distinct methods of logical thinking, each with its own merits and applications. Deductive reasoning is a process by which one draws specific conclusions from general principles or premises. It operates on the principle that if the premises are true, then the conclusion must also be true. Allow me to provide an example to illustrate this concept. Premise 1, all men are mortal. Premise 2, Socrates is a man. Conclusion, therefore Socrates is mortal. In this deductive argument, we start with the general principle that all men are mortal. We then apply this principle to the specific case of Socrates, who is a man. By virtue of deductive reasoning, we can confidently conclude that Socrates must be mortal. Deductive reasoning, on the other hand, involves drawing general conclusions based on specific observations or evidence. It is a form of reasoning that moves from the particular to the general. Consider the following example. Observation 1. Every crow I have seen is black. Observation 2. I see a crow outside my window. Conclusion, therefore all crows are black. In this inductive argument, we observe that every crow we have encountered thus far is black. Based on this observation, we infer that all crows must be black. However, It is important to note that inductive reasoning does not provide absolute certainty. The conclusion is merely a probable generalization based on the evidence at hand. In summary, deductive reasoning moves from general principles to specific conclusions, while inductive reasoning moves from specific observations to general conclusions. Deductive reasoning is often associated with certainty.
So there you go. We just consulted Sherlock Holmes. So an AI Sherlock Holmes, as it were. So, wow, isn't that crazy? Let's do one more. There's one in here that's like an English teacher. Let me get that one open for us.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, I was hoping you could help me with a English and grammar problem.
Of course, my dear. I'd be happy to help you with your English and grammar problem. Please go ahead and let me know what you need assistance with.
What is the appropriate way to write the following phrase? Me and John love pizza, or John and I love pizza?
That's absolutely right, my dear. The appropriate way to write the phrase is John and I love pizza. When talking about yourself and someone else, it's more polite to mention the other person first and then yourself. So instead of saying me and John, we say John and I great job. Is there anything else you would like help with?
Okay, so there we go. Super cool. Just kind of neat. There's one in there that's George Washington. There's a superhero you could talk to. There's a performance coach, like help you with public speaking. There's a hamster astronaut from the future. So all sorts of crazy stuff. So an amazing concept. And like the Sherlock Holmes and George Washington obviously draw on maybe like historical documents and things like that. And so kind of a different resources, and the English teacher basically on grammar and English and dictation, and not dictation, but diction and other things like that. So very kind of interesting how they can draw on that. And so as a result, it can be used for different sorts of things. So super cool. That's the Call Annie app and some of the different personas that are available. So hopefully you enjoyed that demo of the new personas inside of Call Annie. And not only do they have a personality, they can be tailored to very specific things. So kind of an interesting concept. Will that come to our Amazon Echo? Will it come to our Google Assistants? Will it come to Siri on the iPhone or the Google Assistant on Android phones? Well, here's hoping. Yes, I really sincerely hope so. Because it would be kind of really neat to have different kind of personas that are really good for spelling or checking certain types of things or helping with different types of activities. Wow. Be kind of cool. Really cool. Well, anyway, I hope this has given you some food for thought about what might be coming here in the near future, and so that you're not surprised it's coming down the line here hopefully soon. Anyway, if you have thoughts or suggestions about a future episode, by all means, reach out to me or us here at Goodwill Industries of the Valleys on Facebook or Twitter. We'd love to hear your feedback, or you can even drop us an email at info@goodwillvalleys.com. We'd love to read your email, thoughts, suggestions. Just earmark it. If you do send us an email, in the subject line, just say, hey, it's for the Echo Tips podcast, or to Dave. And our marketing team will be sure to make sure that it makes its way over to me. Anyway, we really appreciate your listenership, your feedback, your thoughts over these last 5 years. We're wrapping up this 5th season and about to begin our 6th. We really, really appreciate it. By the way, if you have thoughts or suggestions about our new jingle or music for our podcast, feel free to listen after the last bumper here, this last closeout, and you can hear those and even vote on those. We'd love to hear feedback about that as well. Anyway, so that will wrap up this episode. Until next time, it's time to turn the ears on your Echo, start practicing some of the many things that you've learned. I'm David Ward for the New Vision program, and we do thank you for listening.
Thanks, Dave. Let me tell you a bit more. Let me put on my official sounding voice. Ahem, ahem. This episode is brought to you by New Vision at Goodwill Industries of the Valleys, and also made possible in part by a grant from the Virginia Board for the Blind and Vision Impaired. New Vision is a program of Goodwill that provides information services and assistive technology training to individuals with visual impairments. Goodwill Industries of the Valleys is a nonprofit organization serving Central, Southwest, and Southside Virginia. Goodwill's mission is to empower individuals, strengthen families, and inspire communities. These shows are provided for educational purposes. This podcast may not be retransmitted, sold, or reproduced without written permission from New Vision. Phew. Thanks for listening.
Okay, so here is possible new theme music. This is number 1. If you're voting, vote for number 1 if you like it. Kind of punchy. I don't know. That's number 1. Oh, it's gonna break loose. Alright, we're on to number 2, if you like this one. So it's got a little more of a fantasy kind of... Yeah, it's kind of like this one too. Number 2. Okay, we're on to number 3 here. This one's pretty upbeat. I have to drink a lot of coffee. This is my new sleep. Number 3, guys. I don't know. It's a lot of energy. Okay, this is number 4 and our final option. And we might bring in some others here in a future episode too. Number 4. I like the piano. All right, guys. So just let me know 1, 2, 3, or 4, and you could probably vote on this on Spotify, or you can tweet, Facebook, or email me and just let us know. All right, thanks.